There. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Monitoring the folks here, let people in.
Hi, Maddie.
Hello. Kathy. Judy. Just give me a few minutes. I'm managing the people coming in.
We have to be on that screen.
Evening.
Hey, Dave. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Just letting everybody chime in here. A few more minutes. Hey, Chief, how are you? See you.
Good to see everyone.
Thanks for joining. Everybody at the moment. Just trying to see through the crowd here if we have the folks from our committee on. I see Rita's on, Dave's on, Judy's on, Kathy.
Is that somebody you know?
Leanne's on, Amy's on. Mark is on. So we're still looking for Christine, Tom. It's Tom. Tom's joining.
I'm not getting very loud.
Tom. Is Christine on? Does anybody know if Christine's on? Anyone?
Not seeing her, Matt.
Me neither.
Do you know her?
Waiting for a bunch to
No?
join here. We'll hang out for a few more minutes. Give it another minute or two. Tom, you're on. I think I saw, right? Correct?
All
Right, yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
I don't hear anything.
Probably need to set this up a little different. Still more folks joining, so I'll give it a few more minutes.
We waiting for Matt?
You're in.
Christine Brassel?
Go sit in the chair. That's your chair.
There'll be no contact information. Might want to try to reach out to her.
Do we have a quorum?
Possibly.
We do have a quorum, I believe.
What constitutes a quorum, Dave? I'm going to go to you for default on that one.
Well, we could certainly be missing one member to have a quorum. I know I missed a meeting.
Okay.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Why don't we get started? Because we have a lot to cover today, so I'll get going and I'll keep tabs on who's trying to join the meeting at the same time. So, can everybody see my screen by any chance?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And Tom, I'll send you this after the call as well, so you can
Awesome.
attach it in a minute, the PDF. I'll send it to you in a PDF version so you can kind of have it for record keeping purposes. I'm just gonna check the, just don't mind me, I seem to keep checking the folks joining, that's all. Okay. All right, well, we'll get started here, starting here at 6:32. When we get started, we'll start with a couple things I'll address out of the gate. A few things that we've seen a lot of letters coming into, our email address. Wanted to kind of talk to those, and a lot of folks want to share their opinions, and they want to share discussions around a whole host of different things. So I thank everybody for sending things in. We'd love the participation, so appreciate that. One of the things I want to kind of acknowledge is that we should include all those letters in our minutes from tonight. Tom, I don't know if that's going to be a daunting task to pull those into our minutes going forward. And we should also take a look at, is there a way for us to potentially even post all the letters that we've been receiving from the prior meeting and into this meeting, even on our website? Is there a way that we can create
myself if that might be an alternative?
But since we've kind of set precedent and we're including letters in minutes, I think we need to include all letters in minutes going forward if people are going to send them in.
Well, we've only included letters from what people already said at a meeting. We haven't included we've only included a letter if it's been a follow-up to a public comment.
Yeah, I know, and I thought about that as well too. So because we have just an abundance of them, we wouldn't be able to get through the meeting if we had to read every single one of them. So I was kind of curious about that as well too. So we reached out to the AGO to kind of get an opinion on how do you handle, when you have an abundance of letters. I can kind of share with you what they share with us. They said that, if a document isn't used during a meeting, the public body may still choose to attach it to the minutes, even though it's not required to do so. The letters do not need to be read at the meeting in order for them to be attached to the minutes. So
perfect.
it's kind of down here in bold. So I think we're in good shape on that one. So task you with the tall task of gathering all those and putting those together. But I like the format that you did in the prior minutes that we have here. So
I could do them as one giant document, or I could do a link to each letter. If you end up having a preference, let me know.
yeah, if we could put them into one document, it'd probably be the best thing. I think just so it's easy to download. I like the way your last one did, where you could click on that PDF and it just opened up.
Yep.
That was that was good. So just so everybody knows, for folks that are on the call today, I've been sending out emails to everybody that's sending a letter, letting them know that we wouldn't be able to read them tonight, but I want to let you know we did do some research to figure out if we could get those in the minutes, and then we can kind of discuss them in a future meeting. And one of the things I had intended on was for our February 12th meeting to be dedicated to public comment, so we can see how this meeting goes. If that stands, then that's my plan. I have the agenda set for that for the 12th, so that's kind of how we'll handle that. The kind of the main body of tonight is we have the chief on, so I appreciate you hopping on. In our prior meeting, I asked that folks, if they had questions, to send them in advance. That was your request, Chief, was give you time to prepare on the questions that the committee had, and also we've had a few from the public come in as well. And I sent those over to you. And if we have time, post that discussion of the ones that were sent in advance. Love for each of the committee members to be able to ask a question of you while you're here, and engage with you, as it's part of our charge is to look at enforcement was one of the main things that we had in our charge. So want to make sure we can do kind of our committee duties and spend time with you and asking questions that are on the top of mind for our committee folks. And if we have time, then we could do some public comments. And then we're going to get into we have an open meeting law complaint we need to talk to a little later. Need to talk about 11 minutes as well. And next up is the minutes review. So the 11:26 minutes, Tom, can you resend those to the town? For some reason, I could not find them on their webpage. I looked at where our minutes are available, and the 26th is showing not available. So I don't know if that's they didn't receive them or they just didn't have a chance to post them yet, but I thought as maybe a follow-up to this meeting, just resend them to them and ask that they post our 26 minutes, because we did approve those.
Depends on how the complaint resolves. Because if the complaint resolves a certain way, the OML complaint, if the complaint resolves a certain way, it would mean that no actions would have been valid at the meeting. So if it resolves that way, then we would have to approve those minutes or approve them. Do you know what I mean?
Well, we're talking about, I think I'm talking about the November 26th.
Right, but we
Yeah.
approved, the questionable meeting, the complaints about was the meeting where those were approved. So that approval would be one of the actions that wouldn't be valid if that meeting is deemed not
Okay.
having been legally posted.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can get into that in a little while.
Right, I was
We'll do
just,
it that
that's why I waited on doing anything with those minutes yet.
Okay, we can talk about that. We do have the 1-8 minutes that you did send around. Does anybody have any comments on the 1-8 minutes?
I do.
Anyone?
Um,
Go ahead.
I don't know if anyone had a chance. I just recorded from my own notes 26 perhaps attendees, but I haven't had a chance to look at the Zoom account to make sure I caught everyone. It's not critical either.
No, I think
I didn't know if anybody noticed a name missing. Attendees that were guests.
Tom, when did you send out the last minutes there? Because I don't believe I got them.
Oh, let me check.
Should narrow in.
it was earlier this week, I think, or even late last week.
There's a lot of emails in there, so I guess it's possible that I missed it.
I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. Let me look at myself last week. So that would have been.
So I searched for you.
I went through them. I had no comments. I thought they
Sent
were
them on January
Well written.
23rd, it looks like, Mark. You are on the list.
I got him. I found him. I found him.
Yep,
Got a couple of minutes to review, Mark, before we put a motion on.
yep.
If you don't mind, let me dive through real quick.
Okay,
They're
Yeah.
not
they're
short.
lengthy.
It was lengthy. I don't think you need more than a minute, but we can always vote, and as long as we get a majority, they pass regardless.
And if
So
you notice
yeah,
anything, Mark,
I may vote
you can
present.
always be amended in the future if you notice
That's
anything,
right.
Mark.
I'll put a motion on the floor to accept the minutes.
we get a second. Second by Kathy. All right, I'll go down roll call. Brazil,
Agree.
There she is.
Green,
Aye.
Lehan,
Lehan, I.
Remmel,
Aye.
Rivers,
Present.
Salvador,
Aye.
Stiefert,
Aye.
Wincolor,
Aye.
and Baroque is aye. Okay. We'll move on. We'll talk more about the other 1126 and 1211 later on then. The next order of business is the chief is with us. So thanks for joining. Appreciate it. And
Hi.
we can let you kick off, dive in. You can answer the pre-submitted questions any way you like. I have them all kind of listed here for everybody. And
Great.
again, these will be
I
these
was
will be in
hoping,
the minutes as well.
I know people like to look at the board, but could I have a minute where that is not up and I can just look at everyone?
Yep.
It's how I do best when I have something to say before we
Sure.
begin this, and I like
Let me
to
see if
see
I can.
everybody if I can. So
My
are
gallery
you?
mode. How's that look?
That's wonderful. Are you ready for me
Yeah.
to start? Okay. Hi, everybody. I really appreciate you coming tonight, and I really appreciate the questions that were submitted. I'm going to do my best to get through these questions in a way that answers them in a way that everyone understands, and also in a way that we move through. So I might be able to get to a couple more questions. But before I start that, there's something that I want to say to the board and something that I'd like to say to all of you from the town. This entire process has been weighing on me in a substantial way. And I was really thinking over the past weekend on why this is weighing on me so strongly in my heart. And that is because what I have found is there is an incredible divide in this community. And it feels like right now there's a stronger divide in regards to Lake Wyola. And anyone that knows me knows me for a short period of time knows that really all I want is for people to be safe and to be peaceful to each other. We have had an incredible outreach of emails. That is true. That was mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. But I've also had a couple of phone calls from people that also wish to remain anonymous in speaking. And I would like to make a recommendation to the board that I would be able to make a recommendation to the select board. I would like to have the select board host a speaking session, a listening session, an open forum for everyone. I know this was something that the board was going to do potentially at the next meeting. They were going to allow a lot more public comment. But what I would like to suggest is that the ears that need to hear all of this are not just our committee, but the select board and also as many townspeople that could or want to be there. And if we open this up to a listening session, an open forum, however you want to call it, have the select board host this, potentially have a moderator who's neutral, and we can get all of the voices in for the select board to hear. I think this would be a very substantial move forward for this broken piece that we have right now. And so if everyone's okay with doing that, I would like to suggest to the select board at their next select board meeting, they talk about potentially hosting a forum. And again, we have had so much outreach. It only makes sense that not only are we just attaching these minutes and things like that, but the select board's actually hearing from the people that maybe want to read their letter. Maybe somebody who didn't write a letter wants to have something to say. So this is something that I feel strongly about. And you know, Matt, I would love for everyone to agree this is something we could do, take it off the committee to hear people and let the select board hear from the people.
Okay.
So I don't know if how you want to proceed with that
Yeah,
statement,
no,
but
no. I mean, I think it's accomplishing the same goal I think I had intended for our next meeting. But if it wants to be hosted by and moderated via the select board, I mean, if I look at the letters that have come in, the majority of them are, directed to the select board. That may make sense to have them host a open forum. I mean, I think the public
Right.
comment is what the whole point was for the next one. And if they have a
We've
better
done
way to
this
do that, or
before.
they have a way to handle that,
Yep,
I'm
we've
open to
done
it, but
this
I'll let
before in
my board
town.
weigh in too.
Yep, we've done this before in town when we've had some really important issues that people want to be heard on. And I think that having it done that way and having them be the host does make the most sense.
Okay. I'll
So,
let some of my folks weigh in. Priya?
You can just stop.
Yeah.
it.
Thank you, Matt. I wanted to thank you, Chief, for attending the meeting tonight. I'm not really sure what you're referring to in terms of the difficulty. I'm sorry to hear that. Obviously, you're the police chief, so you get to see the underpinnings of our community that I wouldn't be privy to. But as a committee member, I have been enjoying this process and working with my fellow committee members and being in discussion. I think it's always great to have like community sessions, but I'm not really sure what you're referring to. And so
I think the people out there, Ria, do understand, the ones that have called me today. And we even had someone suggest this at the last select board meeting, that they also wanted to do this. So last night's select board meeting publicly came on and requested this as well, while I had already been talking to the select board about it. The divide I'm talking about, I think that if I can get some nods from people, that are saying that, we are hearing that there is some turmoil and there's already this, that wasn't a fair meeting, this isn't a fair meeting, there's already that happening. And so I think this is something that, and I'm not saying that I'm not enjoying this as well. I think this is And we have our charge, or you all have your charge as the committee, to recommend to the select board, and everyone needs to remember we're recommending. And we also need to remember that the townspeople are the ones essentially that are going to vote. Just because we want to change doesn't mean that the town would vote for that anyway, or they might. So just to have everyone feel that they can speak to the select board, who are the people that need to hear the questions, comments, and concerns. So,
Did you anticipate this would be like kind of like a hybrid meeting or kind of
Oh,
like this type of
yes.
forum, or there'd be
Oh,
some sort of
yes.
like scheduled protocol of like how they would call on people and they'd have maybe a certain amount of time to speak? That was going to be my
Sure.
suggestion for our meeting coming up, was like, let everybody, condense down their thoughts and things to like 3 minutes or something like that. Or we could
Well,
be here, for an hour with one person sometimes.
right. So my suggestion to the select board would be to hold this as we have in the past. And in the past, they've asked someone to moderate it. The moderator has then reached out to the community and said, we are going to have this meeting. We would like, thought questions, if you could send them to me, and then he then moderates the session in that way. And it's a much more neutral position, and with, again, I think, I don't know, I've counted maybe 50 letters. I could be off. But and with all varying and differing statements, so it only makes sense that the select board hears that firsthand.
Okay. I'll let a few of my other folks think.
And the
Kathy,
select board
anything
would
to add?
also decide on the format, but in the past, we have done it certain ways that has worked out really well for people to have a voice.
Okay. Kathy, go ahead.
So, Chief, would that mean that our committee would be disbanded and the issue would be
No.
with the select board again? Or, because I
No.
know originally they were the ones who fielded the issues. They formed the committee. And our recommendations were ultimately going to go to the select board for consideration. So would we be
It just
just
means
jumping
they're
over the
listening.
committee?
So Kathy, we still have our charge. I keep saying we, I don't get to vote. You all have your charge. Your charge is still your charge. This is just a time frame for people to speak to the select board and have them listen, have their voice be heard in whatever manner they want to address that. Mhm.
So it sounds to me they want to listen to our, to the public, but they're not going to, that's not going to influence our charge and what we're still going to recommend
No,
ultimately
we
to
still
the
have it. We still have a charge. We would still charge forward. Yes.
Okay. Tom, go ahead.
Hi, thanks, Chief. Yeah, I was at the select board meeting with you last night and I
Yeah.
heard it talked about at the beginning and at the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
Have you confirmed already with the select board that they're willing to do this, first of all? Like, I wouldn't want to ask them and have them say, we'd really prefer the committee do it, or they are too busy or anything like that. Have you already asked them?
Hey, Melissa. Melissa or Rita, I think there might be on. Yep.
Yes. Yes, it was, hi, it was,
So Melissa can answer individually, not as a group for select board. We just want to say that out loud.
yes. We're not posted to attend, so we have to not act as a select board members together or speak to each other because of open meeting law. So yeah, we had discussed it a little bit last night and we were going to discuss it further on, I believe, the next agenda, which is February 11th. So that would be one of our agenda items.
And do we have any idea who the moderator might be? Or how
That would be
that
something
person?
that the select board would discuss and talk. There's been a past one where we have used our town moderator. Otherwise, it's been chair of a committee that has done it. But we would want to discuss that in our select board meeting. So we won't be able to discuss much here tonight.
Okay. And I just wanted to ask the chief to consider words like divisive and broken carefully, or divided, or a strong divide.
Thank you, Tom. I'm quoting people.
Sure.
Yep, I
Um,
was quoting people when I said that. I'm not making those words up. So I did think very carefully, and I wanted to speak for people tonight who asked me to. Yep.
okay.
Yeah,
I hope that all of us can see beyond anything that looks like a division or look like
that's my
something
whole point.
open. And I just want to emphasize, please, myself, that I think another committee member might have hinted at it as well. Um, I think we're actually doing splendidly.
Oh, you guys are doing great, but the community is trying to, so I think instead of continuing on with this way, Matt, I just, now that I suggested that, I'd really like to move along so we're not here past 8 o'clock. I'm tired of being picked apart when I am trying to bring things together. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. So I want peace, and that's what I said in the beginning. And I know Ria did not hint at it, Tom. She was very clear, and so were you. And I'm being very clear back and saying, I am speaking for people that called and said, we feel a divide. We don't want to keep going because this is happening or that is happening. I'm not speaking to the committee. I'm speaking to the entire situation. So, Matt, if we could continue on with the questions,
Sure,
that would be helpful.
let's move on.
So we
And I think,
don't, I just want to
just to wrap it
clarify,
up, I
Matt, we
think we
don't need
should
a
be.
motion for this. This is just, this is gonna happen.
Yeah, I think I think if the select board would like to have a public forum and conversation, discussion, and let people speak, then I will abide with that idea.
Great,
Because
thank
I want a
you.
public, I want a public forum anyway, so to
All
me,
right,
that's
thank you, Matt.
you're welcome.
Right.
Moving on.
I hope
All
this-
right.
The unfortunate part about being the chief of police in a situation like this is that everything I try and do and everything I say tends to be picked apart, and I spend hours and hours in emails trying to answer people and be thoughtful. Um, so also I'm 52 years old and I know how to speak. That's all.
Fair enough.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank
Chief.
you.
Well,
Okay.
why don't we jump into some of the meat of it here? We can go through as needed. If we can go in this order, we can, if you want to bounce around, you have all the prepared questions. So I will leave it to you to kind of, if there's ones you want to start with, feel free. I have kind of them on a couple
Okay,
different
great.
pages here, but
So, I'm gonna be bouncing back and forth with my reading glasses here. Um, okay, so let's just start with what you have up, I think, because everyone's looking at that.
sure.
So let's go with that.
Do that.
And then I'm gonna ask that as I am speaking, that everyone just kind of hang on. And if we feel there's any discussion that needs to happen after that, we certainly can. And so what is the best way for residents and folks on the lake to report erratic behavior? What is the process and how could we better educate the public? Okay, so I think I've talked about this at past meetings potentially, and also when I was at the Lake Wyola Association visiting. And the best way to report any behavior, frankly, is to contact dispatch. By calling the station, the police station, you can't guarantee that we're going to get that message right away because we don't always like to sit at the station. So we are not monitoring that phone. So therefore, if we contact dispatch, they're able to get to us in a much more timely fashion if that's needed, and get to us in different ways. There are two options for that. One is what we call the non-emergency line to dispatch, Shelburne Control Dispatch, and that's 413-625-8200. And then if someone deems that something is an emergency call, and again, that's, I believe, very relative to each individual, what they feel is emergent, that would be a 911 call. We do have better service down at the lake now with cell phone service if you have AT&T. I'm not sure how Verizon and those are working, but we also do have, if someone does not have a cell phone or a landline, if DCR is there, you can certainly, go up to them as well. So that's, I would say the best and preferred is to contact dispatch.
Okay.
What is the process and how could we better educate the public? So what is the process? What is the process for reporting? Is that the question?
I think it was just more of kind of like, well, where do they go to actually
Yep. Yes.
call? I think that was the,
If it is something that does not need to be attended to in a timely manner, if it's just something that people want to, you know, let me know about, and it's not a matter of me getting down there that day, you could certainly email me. You could certainly call the station. I do have a work cell phone number. People text that. That is a public number that I put on my business cards, and that's 413-259-5525. And but that again, you know, you can't expect if you text me or email me that I'm going to get to it in a that day even, you know, depending on what time, you know, you get a hold of me. So if it's something that's timely, that's for sure dispatch. And how could we better educate the public? Well, I'm hopeful that we're going to be talking about this in this committee because I think this is an extremely important component to the process. In the meantime, before we get that, or before we really instill the education, I think that word of mouth is what we've been using, but I'd like to see more education happen on our website portal, potentially on the Lake Wyola website as well. I think that when I talk to visitors of Lake Wyola, you know, and I talk a lot to the beachgoers that come from Chicopee and Holyoke and Springfield. And I know quite a few of them actually from working in Springfield. You know, they look to websites when they go visit places so they know what to bring, what's going to be available to them. Is there food there? Is there receptacles there? Are there bathrooms there? So why not put the educational component on a website for people? And we are in an era of electronic data. So I think that is something that we could think about. And there's many more ideas, but I think that's going to be a better suited time for when we do move into the education component of the charge to talk more about that, if that's okay.
good. That makes sense.
Okay. In your experience, do you believe Lake Wyola has safety issues, especially when compared to other lakes and rivers around us? And are the bylaws appropriate? Okay, so let's go backwards with this question. Are the bylaws appropriate? I'm not going to answer that particular question at this time because I believe that the committee has a charge. And I think that if I weigh in on what I think about the bylaws right now, that could potentially sway people's thoughts. And I would like to see what you all come up with first. And then I will review the bylaws and see if there are changes or not, and I will weigh into, you know, before we're finished and share my thoughts and opinions. I think that as an ad hoc member, that just seems more responsible. In your experience, do you believe Lake Wyola has safety issues? Well, I have actually, someone has requested some public records in the logs. I'm going to be extrapolating that to determine what we have in the logs. As far as I can tell, as of now, I've said this many, many times before. I do not have I think I've been here for 6 years, and someone can correct me, or I'm going into my 6th year. Someone can correct me, but feels like just yesterday. But in the time that I've been here, I have not myself, nor have my officers received calls down in regards to safety. That is not to say, because I was called out on this not too long ago, that is not to say that it's not happening. I'm not saying that when people say I feel unsafe, I am not saying that that's not true. What I'm saying is I don't have statistics or data in my mind right now to prove to that. So we are going to be going into the logs, and I'll be submitting those, Tom, to the committee so they could if there's anything or what there is, we could have that be attached to this committee as well. I'll tell you what, uh, when the crash occurred, I was asked a lot of questions in regards to what my thoughts are. And I spent a lot of time after that down at the lake, sometimes on my own time, just so I could see what was going on. And I spent time on some motorized boats. I spent time swimming, as I promised, and I also took myself on my paddleboard. And I did not see constant boats. I did not see issues. I had, uh, well, the times I was out there, I think one of the times I was out there, I had to remind somebody on to wear a life vest or to have proper personal flotation device with them. So yeah, but that was a short-lived experience, and I think that, potentially looking at the logs and again, hearing from people helps. So, what is your
Alright,
plan for
thank
putting
you.
your boat in the water for this upcoming season? And do you have oh, can I stop and go back to a question that's not listed? Sorry.
Sure,
So
go
I
ahead.
did get a question online
I think
or
I have it here.
I'm sorry,
Right here, this one right here.
where is it?
Servicing the boat, trailer,
No, no, no. I'm
costs.
sorry. I'm sorry. Before I even talk about the boat, I want to just address one question because it kind of goes with what I was just talking about.
Oh, okay, sure,
And
go ahead.
and the question was, and I don't have it in front of me, but basically, I have talked about accidents and incidents, and this person was saying, do you think that what happened over the summer was an accident or an incident? And so I'm gonna say this. When we are entering an era in policing where we call these types of things crashes now, we don't call them accidents, we call them crashes. However, an incident is an event or occurrence, and an accident is an unfortunate incident, or unexpected or unintentional. It's kind of how it's listed, and that's why we go to crash now because um, this leaves it to up to investigation and things of that nature. I'm not sure what the question was really, what the person really wanted to get to the depth of. And I want to say that I didn't take it lightly at all, if that's what the person was trying to get to in regards to that. Um, I'm not downplaying something if I say it's an incident because it's an event that happened. So if that was the case, that's what I wanted to address. Now we can go back to boats.
Okay, go ahead.
What is your plan for putting your boat in the water for the upcoming season? And do you have any idea of how often you plan to observe the lake from the water? Okay, so the plan as it stands right now for the boat is I have a mechanic lined up who is happy to take a look at it. And what is fantastic is this person already works in town. So they're familiar with the boat and they are familiar with the history. And so when they're finished with their regular job, they will give me some time to come and look at the boat, service the boat if we need to, and do what we need to do that. And then I will like to let everyone know that I have received information that an anonymous donor is giving us um, oh my gosh, a boat ramp. Thank you. Um, and would like to remain anonymous. And I'm hopeful that the Lake Wyola Association will help us put that in and take that out throughout the years, so that we have a place to put the boat. A perfect place for that boat dock, I'm sorry, I said ramp, dock would be right off of Merrill, where there's currently a launch for personal watercraft for townspeople, for residents. Um, it's right next to it's the big. Does everyone know where I'm talking? It's the little fields that the town created for personal watercraft launch, but also it's going to have wildflowers and things in there. So we can have that area there. So therefore, I could park there and get on the boat fairly easily. How often do you plan to observe the lake from the water? You know, that's really, it's a really difficult question to answer because so many other things could happen. I could plan on being down there and we could be called away for another occurrence. Um, you know, that's a difficult one. I would say as often as I can. And this is I feel like it's such a non-answer of a statement, but as often as I can and as often as needed. And I feel like that's not very substantial, but it's the best I have right now. Okay, EPO versus town enforcement. Will the EPO enforce the town bylaws or do they only enforce mass boating laws? Will they have a presence on the lake? Are they too busy with other bodies of water? Right. Okay, so based on the need for policing. So the EPOs have already stated, and I think we've said this at prior meetings as well, they don't enforce bylaws. They only enforce the mass boating laws. And that is because if you think about it, they service so many different towns that have their own bylaws. They would have to carry, you know, the bylaw books for every single town. I mean, that's just doesn't make much sense for them. And that's what we're here for. So, will they have a presence on the lake? Yes, they will. They have. Actually, they were just there, I think, yesterday. And they were checking into some people that were doing ice fishing and making sure they were compliant with their fishing license and things like that. They've also said that if I request it, they're happy to come on our boat with us. But as far as the last part of this question, are they too busy with other bodies of water? I wouldn't say they're too busy for us. I don't necessarily like the phrasing of that, but the truth of the matter is that their needs are much greater, say on the Connecticut River, and we we don't we wouldn't see them as often as they are on those bodies of water. I would guess. And then they also have to get the boat and they have to bring it out. So um, they would be there if we needed them there as they came to that crash, to that accident. And but they would leave it mostly up to us. Again, they've said they'll come out on the boat with me in order to
Good.
handle things. So, all right, what else do we
Appreciate that.
have?
Go to another page here.
How
How
do
do
you
you
anticipate?
intend to measure speed? There you go.
Okay, with radar. So we have a handheld radar device. So first, let me go back. In law enforcement, we are trained in our radar certifications to also estimate. Now, it is very important that officers know how to estimate speed because we don't solely rely on the mechanics of a piece of equipment. We also rely on other factors. So one of the things that we would be doing is working on some training to estimate speed on water. And by doing so, we would bring out our handheld radar device and we would utilize that. And just like I do when I'm teaching new officers how to estimate speed on the roadway, I then take the device away and say, tell me the rate of speed for this watercraft or tell me the rate of speed for this vehicle. And so we would be using that in our own estimations. But also we have something, speed greater than reasonable. So we need to also remember that that is an important piece and that just because, and on the roadway, I'll speak to the roadways right now. So just because the roadway is beautiful and clear and it's a sunshiny day and the town changed the speed limit to a higher rate of speed. And then all of a sudden it starts snowing and the roads become icy, doesn't mean you still go that speed. you could be cited for speed greater than reasonable for conditions. So it's something we think about as well. And do you feel that our speed limit is consistent with other lakes our size? So we have a little bit of research here, if I can find it. I'm gonna look. I'm sorry, I should have highlighted this one. Well, you know what? I can't find that right now. I did have some research in that area. I will look to that and I will answer that question in an email to all of you. But I do know that for a lake our size, it seems consistent, but I'll get you the data on that. And then I will submit that to an email for you all.
Great, thanks.
What would be your top topics on which we would focus our education efforts? Right, so this is something that, again, is so really very important, the education component. And when I do any other part of my policing, and as I did today, actually, letting people know where my boundaries are, it's education. Education is an important key, and people need to understand why. We are also in a place in the world where people have the ability to research things at the touch of their hand. And so we are very much well, explain to me why society, and I love it. I think that that's a really important piece. So that being said, top topics. Well, I think we need, and again, we'll be talking to this when we get to the education component, I hope so, but we need much larger, more readable sign for people. We need to be inclusive in our signage. I think it's super important to potentially have our signs in another language, or even have a ability for people to, take a scan code, QR code, and potentially read things on their phones where they are able to change the language as they need. I think that we need to have a larger sign. I know we have a bulletin board at the boat ramp, and I don't think it's a very inclusive read for everybody. I'm hearing something in the background. I'm not sure. Okay, so I think that's one of my top topics, and I want people to understand what the bylaws are. I need people to understand maybe some history on the lake so they understand why the bylaws are. And I think we need to make it more inclusive. That's just off the cuff right now, because I know we're going to dive in way deeper in the or at least I hope we are, in the education component.
Sure.
As we
Good.
continue to review and plan for the upcoming needs of safety on Lake Wyola, the budgetary information regarding a police presence on the lake would be most helpful, specifically interested in general estimate of costs associated with servicing the boat and trailer, general equipment needs, additional cost of police coverage on the lake, and costs associated with certifying officers on boating safety. Yes, let's start with number 3 first. So number 3 is also a request that I had in an email. And I let this person know that we don't have boating safety certifications as it stands right now. It was never required. And so I'm currently enrolled in a boating safety course. I'm 17% into my course as it stands right now. And the other officers will also be signing up for the course as well. It's $60 rounded up. And so 60, I have currently only the full-time officers taking the boating safety courses. They would likely be the ones that would be on the boat. At first, it'll just be me. And then we'll be working on training them. Additional cost for police coverage on the lake. Well, we haven't needed that so far. The whole town needs the coverage that they're asking for, and the town in and of itself likes us to be here 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week. And we have quite a bit of square mileage to get through and to attend to, and also including the lake. I think this is something that right now we could work in the current schedule as we have it and see how that works. I currently, right now, only have a gap on Sundays. All the other days are more than covered. So I think that it could be worked in currently with the staffing coverage that we have, and we'll see how that goes. And because they previous to me, the former chief, he had less than half of what I have for staffing now and was still able to get out onto the lake periodically. So I'd like to try it that way and see how we do. Servicing the police boat and trailer general equipment needs. Well, we have a small budget for our vehicles, and this includes the boat. So I would have to kind of see how that goes. Something wonderful that happened is the you all amazing residents said, yes, you know what? Let's get another cruiser so that the one that you have doesn't keep costing us as we bring it into repairs time after time after time. So we're going to be actually down to currently right now we have 4 cruisers. We'll be down 4, 1, 2, 4. We'll be down to 3, and there'll be much better working conditions, so we won't need to be servicing them as much. So we have a little bit more area to service the boat as well, and that's going to be one of the things that I have to just look at it as we go. I am going to get an assessment from the mechanic that I have lined up and see what he thinks about the longevity of it. So that's another one. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to fully answer that. We're going to see as we go.
Appreciate the dialogue thus far.
Right. While I understand this may oh, sorry. I didn't read that last paragraph. Is it?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
While I understand this may not require a full line item breakdown, a rough budget estimate for the services. Okay, I can work on that, a rough budget estimate. The goal is to ensure we are prepared for the logistics and expenses associated with maintaining safety on the lake and that the officers are adequately trained for boating operations. Right. Okay. I can definitely do that. And again, guesstimations are guesstimations. The officers will be, before the summer, adequately trained for boating. They will have their boating safeties certifications. And in our academies that we take, there is a water component, a life-saving water component, and we will also enlist the EPOs to come out and give us trainings before the summer if they feel we need them, and continual trainings as we go. And I love trainings, actually. I love furthering education. Anytime an officer wants to go to a training, I make it as available as I can for them because I believe so wholeheartedly in progressing their education and mine. So, okay.
And I think the last question was the one you answered already. It was around the incident versus accident. So I think you already answered that
Okay,
one.
good. That's great. I
Okay.
don't think that I have anything else that I tried to, I stuck very securely to your, you wanted everyone to submit questions to you. And I know that one incident versus accident came in a little late, but I thought it was important to answer. I think now,
Yeah.
if each, I know you wanted to have each individual person.
Yeah.
Yeah. From the committee.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, from the committee. So I'll let the committee raise their hands if they're whoever wants to start, and I'll go around the horn based on questions that they may have. Mark Rivers, first hand up.
All right, Chief. One question I have, you have your officers going through the boating safety course training.
Yes. Yes.
One of the things that we've discussed in this committee early on was the idea of increasing access to the safe boating courses. would it be feasible at some point to maybe have either a member of the police department or maybe a member of the fire department trained to become an instructor in that boating safety course so that we could more easily facilitate those courses within the town?
How fun. That's such a fun idea. I love that. And as somebody who's an instructor for the police academy right now, I love that even more. Right now, before I dive into that, I will let you know it's so easy for people. Right now, they have two options on the mass.gov website for boating safety, two different options for people to take an online course. And that is approved by the Commonwealth. So right now, I feel like it's kind of really easy. I do foresee them changing the course up a little bit because I think that now that they are going to be requiring everyone to have one over the next few years, I think that they might maybe redo the videos or add more classes somewhere. But that's definitely something I think we could look into and see. I love to do community-based, everything. So a class would be, I think, so fun.
Thank you.
Judy, you had your hand up next.
Yes,
Uh,
hi. Okay. Power boaters regularly speed in at 70 to 100 foot from my shoreline and swing skiers in even closer. Because I have been threatened by a boater in the past and really don't trust boaters to see me swimming, what protection do I have? State law is 300 feet from the shoreline when somebody is swimming. Do you have the authority to enforce that state law?
Yes, I do, Judy. I have the power and authority to for all state laws. Actually, that is such a good question. One of the things that I brought up this summer that just made me reflect back is that I'd like to see more buoys, and I think that I did talk about this at maybe a meeting, I'm not sure. So I'd like to see more buoys for people to understand where that distance is. Not everybody is really great with eyeballing distance. So I would like to see that. I would like to see swimmers attaching, their devices to them while they're swimming, so they're visual, more visual. We say if we take this out of the water and we take it to the streets, when people are out walking at night, they're allowed to walk at night. Cars are supposed to be paying attention for them. They have the right of way, but something that I think is super important is that they wear a high vis vest, right? So let us know you're out there. Carry a flashlight. So same. The boaters are needing to pay attention. People are supposed to know how close or how far to come to the swimming area or shoreline. But let's do some things that can create a little bit more awareness for people so that they can see these things. Does that answer your question, Judy?
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Judy. Dave?
Chief, first of all, thank you for spending the time with us tonight. And I'm sorry to hear this has caused you so much angst. I think you've answered this question to me. I just want to follow up. I mean, I'm in a lot of meetings in town. You're always in them. You're a busy person. Do you feel confident that you have the resources and the manpower, woman power, I should add, to actually enforce the bylaws? Because I think what people are looking for is simply enforcement. I think the committee, the majority felt that the bylaws were adequate, but the feedback that I've received is that they're difficult to enforce. So I just want to ask again, is it feasible given everything that is on your plate? Thank you.
Dave, thank you so much for that question and recognizing I can tend to be very busy. What I really love to do is be out in the community. And I was just talking about this today to Sergeant Peltier. I am a working chief, so I have administrative duties and I have patrolling duties. I have working duties, but my favorite thing is to be out in the community. It's one of the things that I miss the most from being a patrol officer is being able to be out there much more than I am now. I've had to designate time to sometimes be out there. Is it feasible? Yes, it is. But we need some other components with that as well. We need the education component. We need to get people in the understanding of what is expected. And I think if we have these things combined, I believe it will work. If we try it and I am failing, everyone knows I am the first person to point out that I am failing. And this is something that I'm going to have to relook at. I've done it before. I've said it before. I'm not afraid of that. But I can say confidently, looking at what we have right now, looking at the care that everyone has in this community for this lake is something that I really enjoy seeing. And I think that this is something that we can do. I have a stable department. Which is the first time it's been this stable in quite a while. And I feel that with the proper training, and extra training that I'm going to be looking for, that I believe we'll be able to do this, Dave. But it's not just enforcement. We have to look at the other components. We have to look at, the education and the signage and the inclusiveness in getting information out there. We have to look at all of these things. We have to work in cooperation together, not only us, but we have to work in cooperation with, other departments and DCR and EPOs, et cetera. I guess I wanted to give you a short answer and I just went on and on, but yeah, the answer is yes. I really do.
Rhea, go ahead. You're next.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that, Chief, because last time I talked to you, it seemed like you were kind of short-staffed to getting like different things, like needing a secretary. So I'm glad you're able to do that.
When was that, Rhea?
Oh, when I came into the office to talk to you about
Oh,
the
I'd still love a
artifact.
secretary, sure. Yeah.
All right.
But I actually,
I have a
administrative
question.
assistant.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. I have a couple. One request is when you find that data about comparable lakes, that you let us know where you're sourcing that from,
Of course.
whether or not it matches. And then I was kind of curious about this boating safety class that the police officers are taking. Is this the same that citizens take?
It's the exact same. Yes, there is no
Okay.
specific boating safety course for police officers. So it's the exact one that the citizens take. And then, as I said, I'm going to reach out to the EPOs and we are going to work cooperatively with them to get up to whatever speed they feel we need to be if we are not.
Okay. Having taken that course where I sat in through the whole length of it, where it was just showing PowerPoint after PowerPoint, and being a boater my entire life, I thought it was rather rudimentary. So maybe in your training for trainer type of position to maybe upgrade that would be like a wonderful thing.
Right. So I would be
I
careful.
was concerned about that.
I would be careful with saying your opinion on it was being rudimentary because there are people out there that it might be difficult for. In that being said, I think so far in the very short time that I've looked at it, I think it's got some good information.
Yeah, I
And
apologize. I don't want to offend anybody. I'm not meaning it's rudimentary. It was just standing or sitting in the room for the entire course, just watching PowerPoints.
yeah.
And so it's one form of education, of course. So I
think-
was wondering.
Oh, I just wanted to speak to that.
Sure.
I would have had my officers sign up for the in-person course, but that was going to be it was going to be much more costly, and I was told it's the exact same. So that's why we went with this one. Yeah.
So they're doing it remotely.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So one of the questions that's come up over the course of our meetings here is the difference between an environmental police officer, what we keep on referring to, if folks on the Zoom don't understand, what we keep on referring to as EPO, environmental police officers,
Mhm.
and the Shutesbury Police Department, and that some of the things that an environmental police officer might be able to do because they have different qualifications than our town department. Can you clarify a little bit of that? Because there's been a lot of question around it. I'm not sure if I'm certainly not sure about what the difference is. Are you all becoming kind of official environmental police officers then to be able to do an aquatic type
No.
of rescue and or whatever?
Oh, well, yes, I
do
mean,
there?
yes. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna
Yeah.
need you to get your question a little more streamlined for me.
Well, what's the difference between an environmental police officer and a town uh, like Shrewsbury Police Department and what you can actually enforce on a body of water?
Okay,
Start
we
there.
can enforce all the same laws as the,
same laws.
oh, there's some back feed on that. Somebody's got their mic open.
I can mute everybody, but then I'll have to unmute you, I think is how
I
it'll have
think
to work.
it fixed itself. It fixed itself.
Okay, if it continues on, I can go with the full mute.
Okay, right. So, okay. Again, Ria, one more time, because that threw me.
Okay, no problem. So the question that has arose in the committee is what would the police department in Shrewsbury, would they have different guidelines or ability to respond in a different way than an environmental police officer patrolling the lake?
Okay.
Are there different qualifications, I guess?
So we all can enforce the same things, just as environmental police officers can do traffic stops. They can be rolling through Shutesbury and do a traffic stop. So if you ever see an environmental police officer pull you over, you should stop. So we can enforce all things. But yes, I think what you're really getting to is that they are much more, sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought somebody said something. So they are much more specific in certain things that they do. Hunting laws, boating laws, environmental protecting environment laws, right? So the answer is we can both cross over and do the same things. But we always lean to experts when certain things arise. And that is because for various reasons. I could go on and on in regards to that. But so say for a boating crash accident, you know, they are the experts on the waterways and they have the purview to handle those accidents. It's sort of like the state police. We don't have a detective unit here in Shutesbury. So if we have a death of some sort, the unit that comes in from the state police investigates that. So yes, so we lean to experts for various different things, and make no mistake about it, they lean to us as well. They call us up and they ask us what we think about this area because we're here and we're basically living in this environment and in this town, and we are the experts of our own town that we work in. So I'm not sure if I went round and round on that for you or if I got your answer.
I appreciate it. I guess it kind of comes into the area of like right-of-way laws of the waterways, and that there's kind of a gray area as we're searching down on what the codes are for that, at least for Massachusetts, on where you give a right-of-way for um, a swimmer or a paddleboard or a kayaker. And so those are some of the things that we were talking about. And I asked any of my other committee members if I'm getting this right or wrong. They were trying to figure out there what is the actual standard written in the law. And so can we then assume if the Shutesbury Police Department would be patrolling the lake that they would have those answers? Because those are really some of the kind of key questions that come up in terms of kayakers and power boats and the rowboats, whatever, giving right away. So is that some of your training? I'm just trying to get the gist of it, how so we could answer those questions.
So as I stated before, we are going to be leaning to our EPO family to assist us in making sure we are up to speed with everything. I would love to tell you that we are experts right now, but that would be a lie. I am not. I'm not an expert right now. I don't know if I'll be an expert, but I will be able to handle the situations and the laws that come.
All right. Go to Kathy. Be good. Guess we're gonna
Hey,
run out of
Chief.
time here shortly, so I wanna,
Yeah, I've
should we
just got a
keep moving?
quick question. How difficult would it be for you to formally schedule like a rotation of officers on the lake at certain times, like in the winter now when the lake is frozen, in the summer on busy weekends? Not a predictable schedule for the public to get to know, but just on a rotation so that there's a presence periodically keeping people on their toes.
That's the plan, Kathy. It's going to be something we call intermittent reinforcement. It's what we do on the roadways as well. You never know when we're going to be around the corner. So our hope is that you are going to maintain the speed limit and operate appropriately. I would love to say that, you know, if none of us were around, everyone would do everything they're supposed to do. But we know as human beings, that's not always the case for various reasons. So we will have some sort of rotating schedule. As I said, it's going to start with me, and I need to make sure my officers who are with me right now are up to speed as well, and we will be working towards that. I want you to understand that we can also do things from the land as well, and we can. It's not such a giant body of water that we can't figure out who's kind of doing what. But I will reiterate the importance of calling us, which is something that was stated at the Lake Wyola Association meeting that, you know, well, yeah, there's been problems, but nobody has called. And unfortunately, if you don't have the data and statistics to prove that, right? So if there's a problem, we definitely want to be called. And then, and we can figure out the need for us based on that, based on what we see, based on the calendar, what's happening in holidays, that sort of thing.
Got it.
You.
Maybe one more question and then we will unfortunately have to move on to our other business, Chief.
No, sure,
Keep us
yeah.
on track.
Yep.
Um,
Tom,
I'm hopeful to take, I don't know, Matt, I was hopeful I could take 1 or 2 questions from the public tonight.
Sure, we can
Okay.
do that. All right,
My
Tom, go
question
ahead.
will be quick. Thanks, Matt, and thanks, Chief Burgess. Chief Burgess, as part of our charge, we have that one of our members would be a representative of the environmental police as an ad hoc member, and that we would contact DCR to get a person to serve as a resource. Might you be in a position to help us establish those chains of communication, or
Oh, sure.
because we haven't had that good fortune yet, and
Yeah.
I don't know myself where to begin on that.
Oh, I'm very helpful to do that, Tom. And what we have great news that we have always struggled to get environmental police officers out to this area because we didn't have someone stationed in this area, and we do now. We have somebody who is specific to our area, which is a huge catchment area, but still, it's much better than it was before. I'm not calling, Sergeant Champlain from the Berkshires and up in Peru and asking him to come down. So yeah, I definitely can help with that. If you just send me an email who you need, I have the contacts.
Awesome, thank you.
Just a couple of hands up from the public. Start with Miriam.
Hi, this is actually Rob Kibler. We're sharing a laptop tonight.
Okay.
Chief was asked about the rules regarding who has the right of way. And Chief, I think it's fair to say that the maritime laws for watercraft are much less defined than the automobile laws for the road, correct?
True. Yep.
Okay, so if we wanted to have a lake on which human-powered craft had the right of way over gas engine powered craft would be in the bylaw, correct?
I'm having a really hard time hearing you, and I was staying with you until the last part. I'm so sorry. Can you either?
I apologize. There is no regulation as far as who has the right of way for whether it's a powered craft or a paddle craft. So if we wanted to have a lake on which human powered craft had the right of way over powered craft, that would have to be in a bylaw. Is that correct?
Well, I am assuming that, yeah, it would, if a town wanted to do that, it would have to be in a bylaw potentially, yes. I
Okay.
also think though we need to look at, I'm trying to figure out how to formulate this and do it quickly because I want to get to a couple more people. So we need to look at people understanding, and this is part of the education component. Do I take over somebody who's swimming in front of me in a powered motorboat? That would be something that is, we need to look at all factors here, and I am of the mindset that we have an incredible town with incredibly smart people in it, and I've not heard that that's been an issue. If it's an issue, we do need to look at it, but we also need to recognize that I think that people, if they see people, they're not going to try and take over a non-motorized vehicle. Maybe I'm a Pollyanna. I don't know. So, Jen, I can't hear you.
Okay, here I am. Hi, thanks, and thanks for this opportunity. So my question has to do with whether you believe there's a conflict in our bylaw between number one in the bylaw, which says all the Massachusetts boating laws should be followed, and number three, which is a specific town law. Number one says that a boat going more than headway speed needs to be 150 feet from a swimmer, water skier, and other things. And number three says it has to be 150 feet from shore. But if I'm swimming as a swimmer within my rights, let's say at 60 feet, technically, the way I'm reading it, the boat would need to be 210 feet from shore, which would be my 60 plus the 150 feet from me if they're following the state law. So there's been a lot of discussion within the committee that the current bylaw is adequate and clear. And I'm asking you whether that conflict that I think I'm seeing is an actual conflict. And it seems like if it is, it presents a lot of problems for enforcement and education in that what is the actual, and in other words, maybe a boat can be 150 feet from shore unless there's a swimmer present. And we're not talking about designated swimming areas because the state law says a swimmer, meaning me swimming along at 60 feet. What do you think of
Yes.
that?
Well, so don't hate me, but I'm going to go back to, but I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning of the meeting, and that I don't think it would be prudent of me to comment on my thoughts on the bylaw until the committee is finished doing their charge. And then I will weigh in on my thoughts in regards to that. I understand what you're saying. I do. I hear you. I understand what you're saying. But I feel that if I give an opinion on the bylaws, that's not going to be helpful to the committee.
Okay, only, and this is up to you in the committee, but only that if the committee is recommending that the bylaw is clear and adequate as it is, but the bylaw as it is presents this conflict with the state law, I would hope that the committee would take under advisement that maybe it's not quite as clear as it appears. So I'm fine to just leave it at that and hope that the committee will take that under advisement.
Yes, I definitely understand that. I hear you, and I am marking that down, and I think of that. Do we have more time? I'm not in charge of time.
Sure. Let's do
Okay.
two more. Let's do the two that haven't
Okay.
been
Hi, Carol.
spoken to. So let's do Carol and Amy first.
Hi, Carol.
Me first? Okay.
Sure.
Hi, Chief. Good to see you again. Thanks for coming to this meeting and clarifying a lot of things. I just have three comments and maybe some questions in there about those three things. About data collection. What has happened over the years that I've been here for 24 years is that I personally, and I know a lot of people that have talked to me about this, and that we have, in order to keep ourselves safe, we have to not go out to paddle because it's not as self-seen out there. And so I'm wondering, is that if every time that I say, nope, that's not a safe situation for me, if I can report that as a self-selected, because that is keeping the accident rate down. Because people have learned by intimidation or by near misses, or just the general, environment that isn't conducive to paddling or swimming or sailing, that they're not going to go out at certain times. So if you are thinking about data and collecting data, I'm wondering if that is a category that could be included.
I mean, sure. And actually, I really love that you brought this question up. So what I'm hopeful for is in the future, you could give me a call and say, hey, if you're around, can you just come take a look at something down here for me? And I can come down and I can see what's going on and look at that. And yes, we would then add that to the data if that were our statistics or whatever, if that were a necessary component to do so. Absolutely, for sure. And
okay, thank you.
Is that it? Yep. Okay. Good.
No, that's not it. But thank you for considering to add that in. And we know, unfortunately, that we learned again this summer that it only takes one boat that's out of control. So you might come and say, hey, there's only one boat out there, but if they're out of control, you would be looking for that, I would assume.
Well, of course, if you called me and asked me to come down because you felt that somebody was being unsafe or you felt unsafe, we would assess it with all of the tools and education and experience that we have.
Cool. Okay. My second point is about the Merrill Road location for storing your boat. I'm really appreciative that somebody has come forward to donate that and make it easy for you. That location abuts a pretty well-known violator of boating rules on Lake Wyola, and I will wait for the investigation to be completed before I, make any accusations on that. But that would allow him to say, hey, the boat's here, I'm going to go out and zoom around, or say, oh, the boat's gone, I'm not going to go out now. So I don't know if there's other options that you can consider, but that occurred to me when at first I was like, oh, that's a good location. I'm like, no, I'm not sure about that. So if you could just consider.
Yes, absolutely,
okay.
Carol. I'll let you know though. This happens in so many different ways, and again, it is such a small body of water that anybody would know if I was there or not potentially. And this happens with cruisers as well. I decided today to park my cruiser around back town hall. Because I was utilizing the downstairs more, and people thought there were no cruisers in town. So, it kind of happens with all things. So yes, I will absolutely take that into consideration. And I'm not saying that's exactly where it's going. I'm hopeful that that's where it would go. It would be a good spot. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. And then I wanted to just talk a little bit about the specificity of bylaws, because I think I've worked for all the 24 years that I've been here, I have worked for safety. And I've always promoted Lake Wyola as being a multi-use lake, and I'm for safety. And so I think the specificity of the bylaws have to be part of an educational tool. And I would like, if you'll indulge me, to read from MassDOT.
Hey, Carol, I am so sorry, but I really want to get Amy in before I finish, and we only have 9 minutes left. Is this going to be super quick?
Super quick. All right,
Okay.
this is a piece of the bylaw for the town of Harvard. I happen to know that body of water because a former student of mine lives on that lake. And I just want people to listen to the specificity and how it would relate to education. No person operating a craft propelled by other than muscle power shall pass another craft within 150 feet or circle around any craft in a manner as to annoy or endanger the occupants of the other craft, nor pass within 150 feet of another craft or between moored crafts, floats. No craft shall operate at a speed that endangers life, limb, or property of any person. So while our bylaws may, standing on their own, look adequate, and 5 people on the committee voted that they were, the other 4 were not even through a process of the research and looking at it. But if we want the bylaws to be part of education, then some kind of specificity of that language. And if you go on mass.gov, you can read every town, except Shutesbury is not on there for whatever reason. I hope the committee will look into that and get our bylaws to be modern and as part of an educational tool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. I want to make sure we promised Amy
I too want to hear Amy.
Yes. I thought I lost you guys for a second. Okay, Amy,
Go ahead,
sorry,
Amy.
we're not leaving this group a lot of time. Here we go.
That's okay. So just quickly, and Chief, I thank you for your time here. This actually is not a question to you, but I did want to just respond to Jennifer Wallace's comment. The town bylaw number 1 says all motorboats must comply with mass boating laws and Coast Guard regulations for safety equipment. We have looked at these bylaws very thoroughly, and I do not believe that we missed anything here in those bylaws. Like, I don't think that they conflict in any way. So I just wanted to note that. Thank you. This
Well,
is about
I'm all done, Matt. If everyone else, thanks, Amy. I'm all done now. If everybody else is all done, I have nothing else to add. So we can move on if you're ready or whatever you want to do.
Miriam had her hand. Miriam did
Okay.
have her hand up.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Hi, very,
Set up.
thank you. I just, in response to Jennifer's comment about the bylaw and state law, and I can send you the document, but if you go to the Mass Environmental Police's boating regulations documents, it describes headway speed as needing to be maintained within 150 feet of swimmers and from 150 to 200 feet of shorelines that are used as swimming areas. And it also requires that motorboats not be operated within 150 feet of shorelines used as swimming areas. So I don't think it's inconsistent. But you certainly, I'm happy to email this to you and you can look at it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Miriam.
All right. I think that concludes. Thank you, Chief, for your
Okay.
time. Definitely appreciate you being prepared for the questions that we had. Thank you for taking a lot of questions on the spot as well. That is highly appreciated, and look forward to working with you further as we get into the further depths of the charge as well.
Yes, absolutely. And as I said earlier, I will be in touch with the select board and formally request they discuss on their next agenda a session to hear people.
Okay. And what I will do is I'm going to wait on our 12th meeting until I hear back from you folks. And if you are going to host a moderated meeting of some sort, if that's what comes to bear, then I will change my agenda for the 12th meeting. So just so everybody's aware. Fair enough. All right. Thanks, Chief. That concludes that portion. Let me go back to my thing here. So I will continue with our program here. What's next on our agenda? So next up on our agenda is that I wanted to address the open meeting law complaint that was made by Tom Seifert. I'm the person in the violation. And just quick background for the public who don't know about the complaint. The complaint was around a meeting that we had on 12/11. We had some issues with a Zoom link with the town as they were changing around Zoom accounts based on the amount of different town committees that are using the Zoom accounts. They were in the process of getting new accounts established. So a little breakdown in communication happened, and a few links were changed around prior to our meeting. So that caused a little bit of a scramble while we were trying to get organized for that specific meeting on 12/14 or 12/11 rather, and that's what Tom wrote about in this complaint. This complaint I'm not going to go into reading in intricate detail here because it will be in our minutes that will be posted post our next meeting here if those are accepted. And then there was a complaint response requested on what we should do with the 11th meeting, and whether or not it's a legal meeting based on the changing of those links, prior to. So I'm charged with coming up with a response to this complaint. So I will say, first and foremost, I want to let everybody know I take this complaint very seriously, and I want to ensure that we're having compliant meetings, as a committee. That's part of my job as the chairman to make sure that is taking place. So I spent a lot of time over the last several weeks really studying up on open meeting laws, and I also had the opportunity to discuss, with counsel from my work. I have access to quite a few attorneys, and I could speak with plenty of people within my employment area. So I did that, and from everything that I read and I've been counseled on, it's important that my response is specifically to this written complaint as it was presented to the Attorney General's office. So that's what I did, and I spent a fair amount of time going through that. In my opinion, is that we did have a legal meeting. In my letter that I'm writing back here, which is on the screen, I'm not going to read it in verbatim here, but I'll break it down into the several key points of why that I believe it is that after going through all the different points that were made, is that I definitely acknowledge that we did have technical difficulties, but we did resolve them by 6:30, and that was documented on the My Town Government site. And for folks that don't know what the My Town Government site is, that all public meetings, any change to any agenda with any changes of any links or anything like that are available for all of the public. If there were to be a change or something like that, they could go to that site and see that, and that was documented. We did delay the start of the meeting that we had on 12/11 to it was right around 6:43, as we tried to accommodate the issues, make sure everybody was able to get onto the meeting. So we did do that, and we called people when needed, and we made sure that they could get on, and we were able to get all 9 of our committee members on that meeting, as well as several members of the public did attend that meeting as well. So I think in my response here is that we made best attempts to resolve the link issues that we had during that meeting. They were made in good faith to make sure that we could have a legally compliant meeting. And the other thing that we did do is we have our meeting. It's available to the public to watch at any time, and it's on. You can get to it through the Shutesbury website. I also have the link here on the YouTube link that's available as well, so they can look at it any given time. And I think a lesson learned here on if this was to happen again, then we should discuss either making sure that we have enough adequate time to either make sure people can get on, or we even talk about potentially rescheduling in the future if this was to happen again. So that's kind of what I see as what we're going to move forward with. And I want to respond, let my committee members provide me a response or anything that they want to chime in on with this. But ultimately, it's going to be my letter that I write back to ultimately in response to Tom's complaint back to the Attorney General, which I need to do by this evening to stay compliant with the law of a 14-day response. So I'm going to stop sharing this for the moment, and I will take questions from my committee members as they have them. Go ahead, Dave.
Matt, given that the complaint was filed from a member of our committee. Is it reasonable for this committee to be able to have a discussion without the public present?
There is the opportunity to go into executive session, but we would need a unanimous vote from our committee members that we would do that.
I'm going to make a motion to do that.
Grace has her hand up too, and then she's the town clerk, so I will take her question first.
If you guys want to go into an executive session to discuss this, that would need to be posted on the agenda beforehand. So you would need to hold this discussion until a later meeting if you wanted to go into executive session.
Tom,
How would that mean though?
Matt,
when
I
we need
realize
to,
you have to file
Yes.
you have to file your response tonight. But I would
Yes.
like to recommend to the committee that any further discussion of this, because I don't think it's relevant. You're going to file as it is. You're going to respond. You're on the complaint. I would
Yes.
like to have an executive session scheduled for our next meeting to discuss this.
Noted.
And what exactly are you asking to discuss, Dave? I just
That
want to
would
be clear on
be in the executive session. That's why I'm calling for it.
Second it.
Huh?
If you second. Yeah,
Matt's able to request an extension as well.
if you second it. Close your mic off.
I'll let other people chime in here. Christine, go ahead.
You're muted, Christine.
Sorry, I couldn't find the damn scroll. Matt, just out of curiosity, do you have any stats on how many people that really officially said they couldn't get logged in that night versus the amount we had online?
Only I've had thus far is the single one, but I will let Grace answer if she has any other complaints as well.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Grace.
No, unfortunately, this complaint was filed on the 30th day. And I didn't receive it until the 31st day. And our current Zoom settings are set to automatically delete user reports after 30 days. I'm working on trying to get all the accounts set up, so that's now 60 days as a result of this conversation. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you exactly how many people went to the incorrect Zoom room that was only posted for 15 minutes about. But the only complaint we've received was this open meeting law complaint. We have not received any complaints from anybody who was unable to access the meeting.
All right. Yeah, go ahead. Does that answer you, Christine? You're good? Okay.
Matt, was it
Great.
my
Grace, you may take your hand down, so I can't tell if you're trying to keep asking questions or not.
I'm
Thank you.
trying, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
was it-
I just don't know.
Sorry,
Go ahead,
Matt,
Maria.
was it my understanding when you sent out this notice about this open meeting complaint that each of us was going to have some time to make a statement? That's what I originally read in your.
Well, that's what you can do now. I mean, I guess this is where we are. I mean, everybody could have a chance to weigh in. Again,
Okay.
it may or may not, change my response, but if there was something unique, but at the end of the day, I'm the one that has to respond to the complaint because it's on me.
All right. Well, for the record, may I read my statement then?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. In regards to the open meeting law violation complaint submitted to the Massachusetts Attorney General concerning our December 11th, 2024 meeting, the last minute change to the Zoom link caused delays and disruptions, including for myself. At the time, I assumed it was an internet issue on my end, only later to realize I had been using the wrong link. Had I not taken the extra steps to track down the updated link, I might not have been able to participate at all. Massachusetts open meeting law clearly states that meeting notices include remote access links and must be posted at least 48 hours in advance. This requirement exists to ensure transparency and public access, both of which were compromised during the December 11th meeting. I believe this committee must take responsibility for the violation and ensure that all future meetings remain fully accessible to the public. More importantly, we should follow through on our initial commitment to review the bylaws rather than finalize them prematurely. Safety for all in Lake Wyola deserves a more thorough and transparent review. Thank you.
Thanks, Rhea. Grace, you have your hand up.
I want to clarify an important point about open meeting law. Open meeting law does not require us to post links to virtual meetings in the agenda. That is something that we do as a practice here in Shutesbury, going above and beyond the requirements of the law. Well, I shouldn't say lots of small towns, the smallest towns, which we are a part of, which is not necessarily lots of towns, but a lot of towns that are similar size to us make people don't provide links to remote meetings on their agendas. And open meeting law permits that towns require people to request links to remote meetings from chairs or the town clerk. That is an option that is available to us. It's not something we do because even though we're a very small town, we have a very active participatory citizenry. And so we go above and beyond to make it our meetings accessible to the public by doing remote meetings and by making the links of our meetings available in our agendas. I want to be clear, that's not a requirement of the open meeting law. I would also like to point out that it is permissible within the open meeting law to change the location of a meeting. If that weren't permissible, it would be completely infeasible for us to hold any meetings, whether those be remote or in person. What I'd like to suggest to people as a metaphor here is if you think about it as an in-person meeting, if you show up to town hall for an in-person meeting and the doors are locked and the person who has the key is late that day, what you do is you go to a different room to hold your meeting and you post a sign on the door, on the first door, saying that that's where you were going to have your meeting and that you've moved to this new room. And then the person with the key shows up. And so you guys go back to the first room and you post a notice on the door saying, we're back at the first room. That is exactly the same thing that happened in this instance on the December 11th meeting. The right link was posted originally. There was a miscommunication. An incorrect link was posted for a period of about 15 minutes, and then the correct link was posted again. Anybody who was interested in what exactly happened there could have easily received notice of that either by signing up for the notices or by refreshing their webpage. So I think it's important to understand that there really wasn't an open meeting law violation here, and B, if there was an open meeting law violation here, that doesn't affect any of the other work that the committee does. That's merely an issue with posting.
Dave, go ahead.
Just to move things along, I have a motion on the floor to go to executive session next meeting to discuss this amongst the committee. If we don't get a second, the motion dies.
I second
So I
it.
just wanted to move that.
I second it. Oh, did you?
Judy seconded earlier.
Okay, so can we get a vote on that so we can move off of that and then maybe finally conclude this meeting, seeing it's 8:10?
Yeah, I mean, we can do that. So, I mean, it's not going to change my response I need to make
Nope,
tonight.
I understand that,
That is,
Matt.
that's,
That's not the point of
I'm gonna
my
respond
motion.
as I've been counseled externally. I
Right,
need to
that's not the
address the
point.
open meeting. I need to address the open meeting complaint as is, as it's
Right.
written, is what I'm gonna do.
Right,
That's what I've been advised to do by my peers, my people. I've looked into this, and that's what I need to stick with. And I don't want anything to be misconstrued in any way. The complaint is the complaint. I'm responding to the complaint. That's it.
I think
I'm not
my
putting anything else into
request,
it.
Matt, my request for a committee private session is discuss the process of how this committee functions, given that the complaint came from a member of the committee. It has nothing to
Got it.
do with what I think was not a violation of an open bylaw. That's
Okay.
why I put my motion on the floor. We have a second
Okay.
from Judy. Let's continue this.
Okay.
For what it's worth,
So we
I
want to
would
vote, we
get,
want to vote on having an executive session on our next next agenda. We would put that on for, I most likely put it towards, I guess I'll put it on the end of the agenda, I guess, so that if we're doing other things, people can chime in early. But let's
Should
go
we-
through we're gonna vote on it. Wait, Mark, go ahead. Sorry.
I would say just one.
And I
quick
believe it
point.
needs to be unanimous. I believe that was what
Yeah.
was said. So
Oh.
anybody can sync this.
So for the idea of this would allow us to have a private discussion amongst the committee to hear out what Dave would like to discuss in the privacy of the committee.
About the
just like-
process of going to the Attorney General with this complaint from
Yeah.
an internal, from someone that's on our committee.
Yep. All right. And then just as if, well, I will worry about it if it passes. All right, go ahead.
All right, I'll do roll call. Priscilla. You're muted.
I don't agree with moving forward with that.
You do or you don't? I missed that.
I do not agree moving forward with that executive meeting.
No,
Then it's
that's
done.
dead then.
Then it's done.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Um,
With
Good question. So Dave has something he wants to discuss. I don't know if we
go
want
ahead,
to
Dave.
give him the opportunity to put it to the agenda in the public forum for next meeting, if that's something he's interested in.
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
Okay. All right. Kathy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'm just curious as to when we think we might get an answer from the Attorney General's office. And the reason I ask is because we haven't seen minutes from that meeting, you know, for all of these reasons, the complaint, et cetera. Is there a limit to how much time can pass before we have to post those minutes?
I'll let Grace chime in here in a second, but my external counsel told me that minutes need to be produced for the meeting and be voted on in a timely manner, which means that they should be produced. If the Attorney General was to grant it an open meeting law violation in the future upon their investigation or their determination, then they would then be stricken. That's what I was counseled on. But Grace, I don't know if you have any information on that.
The minutes wouldn't be stricken. There's no reason
Okay.
why any open meeting law complaint would affect the writing and approval process for minutes. The Attorney General's office may say in extreme situations, which I don't think applies here, that a board or committee must redo any actions they took at a meeting that they believe was in compliant with open meeting law. I have only seen that remedy used in situations where a board or committee met completely outside of public view to make a decision. So since that's not what happened here, I don't think it's likely that that remedy would be suggested by the Attorney General's office. Either way, the minutes still need to be taken and reviewed by the committee and voted upon.
I guess
And usually it can take up to or more than 6 months for the Attorney General's office to make a decision on an open meeting law complaint.
So then can we get those minutes for approval at the next meeting, Tom? With the understanding that the Attorney General may undo stuff at a future date.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay. So we had the 12, 14, and also the other ones, the November ones as well too, Tom. I think we need to produce those for our next meeting if we could.
Yeah, you have the November ones.
Well, if I look in, maybe Grace could let me know. Grace, we had a meeting on November 26th, a virtual meeting, and there's no minutes on the town website for those. And now we're talking about the December 11th. And then we'll have, today's, or January 8th have been approved today. So those will be ready to go.
On December 11th, we voted on the November 26th minutes.
Okay, I got it.
All set, but I haven't sent them off because I didn't know what the
Fair
resolution
enough.
conversation would be. The December 11th minutes aren't prepared yet. I will prepare.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
it's so I've been through enough open meeting law complaints at this point to know that I can't necessarily predict what the AGO is going to say. I will point out this complaint has not been filed with the AGO as of yet. It has only been filed with this board at this point. Tom, if you're planning to, after the response that is issued by the board, if you're planning to refer it to the AGO, I would just say that a complaint about a change in location is very much unlikely to result in a determination that the actions taken at that meeting were invalidated by the change in location, especially because all members of the committee and multiple members of the public were able to attend. That being said, the AGO's office, when they review an open meeting law complaint, they're not restricted to the subject of the complaint. They can dig into, when they dig into a meeting, they can say, well, the subject of the complaint wasn't a violation, but this other thing you guys did was a violation. You never know what they're going to say.
So am I
being
hearing
said,
the town has
the
the
important
opportunity
thing
to
is,
retract the complaint?
well, the important thing is that we still are taking minutes and filing and approving those minutes in a timely fashion. I'd also just say that, anytime an open meeting law complaint is raised, it's really an opportunity for us to look at our procedures and think about what we can do better. While I do not believe that that changing a location, given the procedures we have in place to alert the public to any changes of location for a meeting, invalidates the meeting posting. One of the issues raised in the complaint was that the link that was closed, the waiting room should have been visited to check. And that's always just good practice. And that's a good reminder for all of us, I think, and not just this board and committee, but all boards and committees, because lots of us have these kinds of technical issues. There are tons of reasons why a Zoom link might change last minute. And we should always double check to make sure nobody's stuck in another waiting room before we close that meeting. That's just a good reminder going forward for all of us. But it doesn't raise to the level, certainly doesn't raise to the level of invalidating any actions taken by the committee, which I watched the December 11th committee recording, and I was fairly impressed by how you guys conducted yourselves. I thought you guys were doing a really good job.
Now, I'm just asking again, does that mean that Tom has the opportunity to just not file this and we can just leave it gone here, given the guidance that we've gotten from Grace?
So when a complainant files an open meeting law complaint, they file it with the board or committee. The board or committee has 14 days to respond to the complaint. They have to issue a response to the complainant. If the complainant then can be either satisfied with the response of the board or committee, or they can refer their complaint to the Attorney General's office, in which case the Attorney General's office will review the complaint. The review process by the AGO, based on our past experience and, usually takes a few weeks to a few months. I think the longest time we were waiting was 9 months. Either way, you guys should definitely not wait on the AGO for a response in order to keep conducting your business, because again, it might be September or October before they respond.
Christine, go ahead.
Hi, I just, by the way, Tom, thank you. I know you did a lot of research on this and the same with everybody on this committee, especially Tom. It was very time consuming, I'm sure. And my biggest concern moving forward is that we are going into February already. Time is flying. And to keep stagnant where we are, I think is more detrimental to everything than if we move forward. We all agree, and I don't think anybody here is going to disagree with the fact that, and including the chief, that education is critical to get people to understand what's happening. And with us kind of going back and forth with this whole thing with, and what Grace has said, I think it's pretty clear in what I'm seeing that we need to just move forward and we've got to start getting to where we need to get the education out there. All of our time is valuable. We have spent a lot of time going back and forth on this. It has been discussed several times. I've seen the notes. I've seen my notes. It's time to move forward. And we just got to just keep going. We're not going to wait till, like she said, wait until September. It would be fruitful. And you guys have spent so much time on all your research, all the discussions. That is my recommendation to let's just move forward and get on to the next step. That's going to be a benefit to the public, benefit to every person that lives on the lake and anyone that visits, everything that goes along with it. And the chief has been very, very accommodating. And one of the key things that she is, I'm speaking for you, which you really made a very valid point, is the education, whether it's training to be boating safety, whatever the case may be, it's all education and information. And that's what we need to do next, because this is starting to get very stagnant. And I think it's a moot point.
Mark?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting as we are now 23 minutes past the allotted time, which was already an extended meeting.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, let's go down the roll call here really quick and grab my notes here. Brazil?
Brassel, yay, aye.
Brassel.
Nobody
Brassel.
pronounces it right, it's okay.
All right, all right. Chevigny at the end, not an I, no, I'm kidding. Green?
No.
Aye.
Leahan?
Aye.
Rummel?
Aye.
Rivers?
Aye.
Salvador?
Aye.
Seifert?
Aye.
Windcaller?
Aye.
And myself, aye.
Take care, folks.
Okay, folks, I will get back to everybody once we know what the town recommends, and we will set another agenda. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Oops.